Hi, welcome back to the newest video snippets from the video novel Deadly Affirmations. It's been a while and I apologize for that, but since it's getting on to be winter and you probably have some hot chocolate or a nice warm cup of coffee or a glass of wine or whatever, thought maybe you'd like to hear a story read to you a little bit. So what we're going to do tonight is read the first part of Chapter 5 in Deadly Affirmations. It's entitled Forgive. Patience was pretty sure that she had woken up early. She opened her eyes and stretched. She felt energetic and ready for the day. She squirmed back against the mattress and under the covers, knocking Abraxas off the bed with a startled yowl. Patience smiled and noted that she would pay for that outrageous act at Abraxas' pleasure sometime later in the day, and realized in a lazy, enjoying the comforts of a good bed way that she had been sleeping much better for the last few days. Her thoughts drifted to the parts of her recent dreams that she remembered, and she realized that her dreams had become much more interesting too in the last few days. Smiling to herself, Patience held a bit of last night's dream a little closer for a few minutes, savoring again the lovely warmth that even its memory brought her. After the glow diminished to a manageable level, Patience wriggled around, put her feet on the floor, and sat on the edge of the bed, contemplating what would fill her Saturday. Weezie. Patience reached for her phone on the bedside table and texted her friend. What time? Almost immediately she got her reply. Noon. Little smiley face wink. Patience had 3 hours. How could she have slept so late? And then she remembered her dream. Her questions answered. She smiled again. 3 hours. Well, that gave her plenty of time for the important stuff. Patience bounded out of bed and headed for the shower. 30 minutes later, hair wrapped in a soft light blue towel, she walked naked into her bedroom, searching for an outfit for quiche at Weezie's. Weezie lived about 3 blocks from Patience, and the sun shining through her windows told Patience that this would be a beautiful day. So something comfortable. Her favorite faded jeans, an original white 1984 You Don't Want to Know What Patience had to do to get this shirt, Paul Morley Frankie Say Relax t-shirt, and a pair of green Converse All-Stars. Patience walked into the kitchen and met Abraxas, patiently waiting for food. She went to the pantry, grabbed the first fancy feast she could reach, dumped it into Brax's bowl, and set it on the counter. The big old cat got right to business. Patience poured herself a cup of coffee, toasted an English muffin, spent 10 minutes putting fuel into her engine, and then got to business herself. Weezie was expecting her to bring the mimosas. Weezie had a wonderful kitchen, so Patience would bring the ingredients and do the work there. She looked at the wine rack and found reds and whites and some port, but no cava. That Spanish sparkling wine was her favorite for mimosas, so she would have to hit the liquor store and the grocery. She grabbed her backpack, keys, and wallet and went out the back door. Patience walked into her garage and found her bicycle and her pump. She checked the tires and put a few pounds into the rear. She put on the backpack and checked the ingenious leather holster that beautifully matched her Brooks saddle, with its brass fasteners and hidden metal clamps that was attached to the bike's crossbar that will hold any bottle she might need. Shopping. Patience walked the bike out of the garage and locked it up. Then she got on and pedaled the half-mile to the little neighborhood grocery store, scoring a dozen beautiful Valencia oranges. She put them into her backpack and pedaled another block to the little liquor store. Way in the back, she found a bottle of Segura Viudas Brut Reserva for $10. Score. She walked back to the bike, inserting the bottle in its cradle, and pedaled back home. Patience still had a few minutes before she had to leave. She flopped down on the couch, pushed some buttons on the remote, and found a Sirius station playing some strange Mongolian throat singing backed by guitars and somebody really rocking out on a horsehead fiddle. Patience was certain that a hit or two of White Widow would be the perfect appetizer for these mimosas. And then, wanting to be a good guest, she rolled a joint to take with her, just in case. By the time the song ended, Patience was ready for anything. But before she could really begin her day, she realized she should check her daily affirmation. She walked back into the bedroom and opened the book to the next chapter. She read the wisdom aloud. You are the director of your own mind. It can only follow where you lead. That's right, she thought, and pulled a card from the box. 6. I find joy and pleasure in simple things. Patience smiled, because she did. She walked back into the kitchen, feeling better than she had in a long time, scratched the cat, put her backpack full of oranges on, walked outside, locked the door, secured the bottle of cava in the holster, and hopped on her bike for the ride to Weezie's. 10 minutes later, Patience knocked on Weezie's back door, and when Weezie's cheerful voice hollered, "Come in, sweetie," she did. Weezie lived in a little 1950s bungalow that she had put some effort into making livable. A little blue house with 2 tiny bedrooms, a luxurious bathroom, a cozy living room, an intimate dining room, and a state-of-the-art kitchen stood on a little corner lot with a spreading chestnut tree shading the front door and a small backyard behind fenced in by 10-foot-tall shrubbery, painting a comfortable picture. Since her husband had died, Weezie had lived alone with only her canary for company, but she was far from idle. She played the organ at her church, the First Reformed Millerite Faithful Watchman, at their meetings every Friday night, fostered small rodents for Squirrel Nutkin's rescue. Her last rat had been placed in his forever home just last week, and knitted caps for whomever needed something to warm his or her head when the cold winds blew in the winter. Most folks thought Weezie was a little eccentric. Patience thought that she was as close to a saint as Patience would ever know. Patience opened the door and walked into the kitchen, the likes of which she could only dream. She placed the bottle of cava into the big Sub-Zero refrigerator and sat her backpack full of oranges on the concrete counter next to the sink. Weezie had just finished rolling out a pie crust and was busily fitting the dough into a 9-inch Emile Henry earthenware pie dish, happily whistling a tuneless melody to speed the task. Patience leaned over and lightly kissed Weezie's gray hair just above her ear and said, "Thanks for the invite, Weezie. I really needed some comfort, food, and drink." "You're always welcome, Patty." Weezie smiled. "Now get to work and make us some of that comfort drink. Making pies makes me thirsty." "Yes, ma'am," Patience said, and turned to the counter to make a batch of mimosas. "Oh, sugar," Weezie swore. "Patty, would you please chop up this onion for me before you make the drinks?" "Yes, ma'am," Patience said again. She took an ancient-looking chapati board from its hook on the wall next to the window above the big copper farmhouse sink and looked for a knife in the Wusthof knife block that was filled with a wondrous array of edged tools. She selected a 4.5-inch utility knife for chopping and asked, "You have a lemon, Weezie?" "I've got some Myers in the fridge on the shelf above the lettuce." "Thanks," Patience said, and found just what she was looking for. She sliced the sunshine yellow lemon in half on the cutting board, rubbed the blade of the knife on the juicy meat of the yellow fruit, and set it aside. Then she set to work, dicing the onion, pausing every once in a while to coat the knife blade with lemon juice. By the time Patience had finished the job, she had a big pile of diced onion and hadn't shed a tear. "In the skillet, Weezie?" she asked. "Not yet, dear," Weezie told her. "The skillet and butter aren't nearly hot enough for the onions yet. Put them in the little yellowware bowl for now." "Okay." Patience used the knife to slide the onions into the little bowl as Weezie peeled, seeded, chopped, and drained 4 tomatoes. Patience went to the cutlery drawer and rummaged around, finally finding a metal skewer. She reached up into a cupboard above and got down a plate. She then poked a hole in one after another of 4 of the oranges she had brought, put them on the plate, and slid the plate into the microwave, nuking the citrus for 15 seconds. Patience pulled a little Proctor Silex juicer out of the corner and reached up into another cupboard, finding a beautiful ruby glass tankard about a foot tall, engraved with leaves and flowers. The microwave dinged and Patience pulled the plate out. She set it on the counter and then cut the first Valencia in half, placing the fruit onto the juicer. An ounce of juice later, she put the used rind back onto the plate and took the other half, putting it into the little appliance. When 4 oranges were juiced, Patience tossed the rinds into the garbage and asked Weezie, "What glasses would you like to use?" "The mason jars in the cupboard to your left will do just fine, Patty." Patience smiled and got down 2 of the jars, filling each with about 4 ounces of juice. Then Patience opened the cava and added an equal amount of the sparkling wine to each jar. Then she found the sugar bowl and poured a little pile of sugar onto the plate she had used to cut the oranges. Patience cut 2 slices of the lemon, placed them one at a time onto the pile of sugar to coat them, and then tossed a lemon slice into each glass jar. She walked over to Weezie, who had by this time nearly finished sautéing the onions. The 2 friends toasted each other, and Patience watched as Weezie added the tomatoes, salt, pepper, and thyme to the bubbling glory in the 12-inch all-clad skillet on the 48-inch dual-fuel Thermidor steam range. Patience decided right then that she would be happy to break almost any law to have a kitchen like Weezie's. "Let's try those mimosas, Patty," Weezie suggested. "I've got about 12 minutes until I have to put this into the pie shell." Weezie set the timer, and the two women took their mason jars into the living room.